So Elon Musk threatened to buy an entire airline just to fire their CEO. That's how petty this got. We're talking about a full-blown Twitter war between the world's richest man and Europe's most notorious airline boss. Musk literally called Ryanair CEO Michael O'Leary an utter idiot in front of his 200 million followers. O'Leary fired right back, calling Musk an idiot who knows nothing about aviation. Then someone suggested Musk should just buy Ryanair and fire O'Leary himself. Musk's response? Good idea. This is a $250 million annual fight over Wi-Fi that nobody actually wants to pay for on 1 or 2 hour flights. And honestly, the budget airline CEO might actually be right about something nobody in tech wants to admit. Here's the thing about billionaire Twitter fights. They usually start over something completely ridiculous. This particular meltdown began because O'Leary had the audacity to tell Elon Musk that Ryanair wouldn't pay for Starlink satellite internet on short flights. "We won't put Wi-Fi on our aircraft if we have to pay for it," O'Leary said bluntly. "On a 1 hour flight from here to London, I don't think passengers want to pay for Wi-Fi." Musk, apparently unable to handle the concept of rejection, went absolutely nuclear. But to understand why O'Leary might actually be the sanest person in this fight, you need to know something about how Ryanair actually makes money. And it's not what you think. Michael O'Leary once seriously proposed charging passengers to use the bathroom. That tells you everything you need to know about his approach to airline economics. This is the guy who removed seat pockets to save weight and cleaning costs. He charges you €15 for priority boarding on a plane where every seat is basically the same. He wanted to remove 2 of the 3 bathrooms on each plane and cram in 6 more seats. The man has turned penny pinching into an art form. But here's the genius part. Ryanair tickets genuinely cost as low as €15, $17 to fly from Dublin to Barcelona. That's less than most people spend on lunch. How is this even mathematically possible? Simple. O'Leary makes money on everything else. That cheap ticket gets you on the plane, but you're paying for your carry-on bag, your seat selection, your overpriced sandwich, even printing your boarding pass at the airport. His aircraft fly 11 hours a day, more than almost any other airline. While competitors park planes overnight, Ryanair aircraft are earning revenue on late-night routes. His load factors consistently hit 95% because when tickets are that cheap, people will tolerate almost anything. This obsession with efficiency extends to fuel costs. At Ryanair's scale, every single gram of extra weight costs real money. They're operating over 500 Boeing 737s on more than 3,000 flights daily. A 2% fuel penalty doesn't sound like much until you multiply it across that operation. Each 737-800 burns roughly 800 gallons of fuel per hour. 2% penalty means an extra 16 gallons per flight hour. Across their network, that's potentially tens of thousands of extra gallons daily. At current fuel prices, we're talking serious money. O'Leary has built his entire career on rejecting expensive technology that doesn't directly generate revenue. He famously refused to install entertainment systems, premium seats, even basic amenities that other airlines consider essential. Each time, industry experts predicted passenger revolt. Each time, customers kept booking those $17 tickets. So when Musk's engineers claimed their fuel numbers were wrong, O'Leary did something nobody expected. He got Boeing involved. What Elon Musk knows about rocket ships, he probably knows quite a lot, O'Leary said with trademark sarcasm. What Elon Musk knows about flights and drag would be zero. Game on. Musk fired back on Twitter, claiming Starlink antennas create basically zero drag during the ascent phase of flight. His engineers jumped in with specific numbers. claiming only 0.3% fuel penalty versus O'Leary's 2% figure. But O'Leary wasn't backing down. He brought Boeing's engineering team directly into the Twitter fight, essentially saying, take it up with the people who actually build these planes. The technical reality is more complex than either side initially admitted. Starlink's flat panel antennas do create less drag than traditional satellite communication domes. During climb and cruise phases, when the aircraft is punching through thin air at 500 miles per hour, aerodynamic penalties are relatively small. But here's where it gets interesting. Weight matters more than drag on short flights. Ryanair's average flight time is just over an hour. These aircraft spend more time climbing and descending than cruising. During climb, every pound of extra weight requires more thrust, which means more fuel. The Starlink installation isn't just the antenna, it's power supplies, cooling systems, cabin modifications, and structural reinforcements. A complete installation can add 100 to 150 pounds to the aircraft. On a short flight, that weight penalty persists through the most fuel-intensive phase of the journey. Both sides might actually be right. Starlink's engineers are probably correct about cruise phase drag. O'Leary's team is probably right about short-haul weight penalties. But here's where the math gets really interesting, because O'Leary wasn't just thinking about fuel costs. $250 million a year. That's what O'Leary calculated this would actually cost Ryanair. Let's break down this number because it reveals something nobody in the tech industry wants to acknowledge about airline economics. The fuel penalty, even at O'Leary's pessimistic 2%, represents maybe $50 million annually across Ryanair's operation. Significant, but not catastrophic. The real money is everything else. Installing Starlink systems requires aircraft modifications that need European Aviation Safety Agency certification. Each plane sits in a hangar for days during installation, days when it's not generating revenue. For an airline that maximizes aircraft utilization, downtime is extremely expensive. Then there's the recurring costs: satellite service fees, increased electrical power consumption, additional maintenance requirements. The antennas need regular inspection and occasional replacement. The cabin modifications affect weight and balance calculations for every flight. But here's the brutal truth about airline Wi-Fi economics. Passengers won't pay enough to cover the costs. O'Leary's customer base consists primarily of price-sensitive leisure travelers. These are people who chose a €15 flight specifically because it's €15. They're not the business travelers willing to pay premium prices for connectivity. On a 1-hour flight, how many passengers actually need internet badly enough to pay for it? Maybe 20% if you're optimistic. At what price? Certainly not the 20 to €30 needed to break even on the service. Other airlines offer free Wi-Fi, but it's not actually free. Those costs are built into higher ticket prices. When your base fare is 200 or €300, you can absorb connectivity costs. When your base fare is €15, there's literally no margin to work with. And that's when other airlines started quietly admitting O'Leary might have a point. Here's what nobody wants to talk about in the airline Wi-Fi business. Most airlines are struggling to make it profitable. The dirty secret of airline connectivity is that free Wi-Fi is subsidized through higher ticket prices. Airlines that offer complimentary internet are essentially forcing every passenger to pay for a service that maybe half will actually use. Traditional satellite providers like Inmarsat and Viasat have been pushing airlines toward this model for years. The equipment costs are amortized across all passengers, whether they use Wi-Fi or not. Starlink's disruption isn't just technical, it's economic. Their satellite constellation offers potentially lower per megabyte costs, but they still need massive scale to justify the infrastructure investment. They need every airline, not just the profitable premium carriers. This is why Musk's reaction to O'Leary's rejection was so intense. Starlink's business model depends on ubiquitous adoption. Having Europe's largest budget airline publicly refuse the service threatens the entire growth narrative. Regional flights show dramatically different Wi-Fi usage patterns compared to long-haul routes. On a 10-hour transatlantic flight, passengers will pay for internet out of sheer boredom. On a 1-hour hop between European cities, most people just wait until they land. Boeing's involvement added another layer of complexity. Aircraft manufacturers have been pushing airlines toward connectivity upgrades because it helps differentiate newer aircraft models. But they also understand the operational realities that pure tech companies often miss. Installation complexity varies dramatically between aircraft types. Wide-body planes have more space and power generation capacity for satellite systems. Single-aisle aircraft like the 737 present much tighter integration challenges, but Musk wasn't done. Because when someone says no to Elon Musk, rational thinking tends to go out the window. So Musk did what any rational billionaire would do. He threatened corporate takeover. The Twitter war escalated beyond technical disagreements into personal attacks. Musk called O'Leary an utter idiot for not understanding modern technology. O'Leary responded by calling Musk an idiot who should stick to rockets and cars. Then someone suggested Musk should just buy Ryanair and fire O'Leary directly. Musk's response was a simple, "Good idea." The market reacted immediately. Ryanair's stock price actually jumped on speculation that Musk might make a takeover bid. At current valuations, Ryanair is worth roughly 15 billion euros, easily within Musk's theoretical purchasing power. But O'Leary wasn't intimidated. "He's not going to buy Ryanair," he said dismissively. "And if he did, the first thing I'd do is ground the aircraft because you can't make money flying people for 15 euros with Starlink systems installed." The legal reality is more complex than Twitter theatrics suggest. European Union regulations severely restrict non-EU ownership of European airlines. Foreign investors can own stakes, but operational control must remain with EU citizens. Musk would face the same regulatory hurdles that have blocked other attempted airline acquisitions. More importantly, buying Ryanair wouldn't solve Starlink's fundamental problem with short-haul economics. O'Leary built his airline specifically around the lowest possible cost structure. Installing expensive satellite systems would destroy the business model that makes those 15 euro tickets possible. And this is where the story gets really wild, because other airline CEOs started picking sides. Quietly, several European budget airline executives began expressing similar concerns about Wi-Fi economics on short flights. EasyJet, Wizz Air, and other low-cost carriers face identical cost pressures. They can't afford to subsidize internet access through higher ticket prices without losing their competitive advantage. Meanwhile, legacy carriers with higher base fares found themselves in an awkward position, defending expensive connectivity services that many passengers don't actually value enough to pay for directly. So, who's actually right in this Wi-Fi war? The truth is, both sides have valid points about completely different aspects of the problem. Musk understands technology and long-term trends. His vision of ubiquitous connectivity isn't wrong. It's just premature for certain market segments. O'Leary understands his customers better than any tech entrepreneur ever will. He spent decades figuring out exactly what price-sensitive travelers actually want versus what technology companies think they should want. The fundamental disconnect is between Silicon Valley's technology solves everything mindset and airline industry's profit margins matter more than cool features reality. For Ryanair's customer base, primarily leisure travelers on short European routes, internet access simply isn't worth the additional cost. These passengers chose the cheapest possible tickets specifically because they're price sensitive. Adding connectivity costs would force Ryanair to raise prices, potentially pricing out the customers who make their high-frequency, high-utilization model possible. The broader question isn't really about Starlink versus traditional providers. It's whether we actually need internet access everywhere, all the time. Maybe some experiences, like a 1-hour flight, are better without digital distractions. Future solutions might involve market segmentation rather than universal adoption. Premium airlines and long-haul routes where connectivity adds genuine value. Budget carriers focusing on basic transportation at the lowest possible cost. The technology will continue improving, installation cost will decrease, fuel penalties will shrink. But the fundamental economics of short-haul budget aviation aren't going to change dramatically. Maybe the real question isn't whether Ryanair needs Starlink. Maybe it's whether Starlink needs to understand that not every business problem is solved by more technology. Sometimes the most disruptive thing you can do is simply say no. If you enjoyed this deep dive into airline economics and billionaire Twitter wars, make sure to subscribe to Swiss Flight Signal. We break down the aviation stories that matter, from technical details to industry drama. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most expensive technology is the technology you don't actually need.